Eddie Reynoso, longtime friend, trainer, and manager of Canelo, he let it be known then that Canelo Alvarez will not fight on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th or whatever day it lies on, May 4th, 3rd of 2026. Instead, he is going to try to fight in September, and he's pursuing Terence Crawford.
The ruler of boxing has stepped down from his crown, at least for now. For the first time in more than 5 years, the biggest name in the sport is leaving behind a date that has always been his. The Cinco de Mayo weekend, which has long been linked to Canelo Alvarez, will have no fight in 2026. This quiet moment is not about rest or time off. It is a smart and risky plan to change the story. Sources say Canelo is putting his May plans on hold to focus on one man, a rival who did more than defeat him in September 2025 and shattered the image of dominance he built over many years. The goal is September 2026, and the pressure could not be greater. Giving up a May fight is almost unheard of for Canelo Alvarez. In boxing, dates carry huge value, and Cinco de Mayo weekend is the most desired spot every fighter wants to own.
Four-division world champion Mexican superstar boxer, former two-time undisputed super middleweight Saul Canelo Alvarez sends a message through his longtime trainer, mentor, and father figures, Eddie Reynoso and Chapo Reynoso, who have been training him for 20 years. And Canelo Alvarez, he lets it be known that the boxing world is calling for him to retire after his performance with Terence Crawford in September. But he stated that he is indeed going to push forward. He wants to become a world champion again. He wants to recapture what he left in the ring with Terence Crawford in September, and he plans to also continue to honor the two Mexican holidays that he has been fighting on, which is Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day weekend. And he says, see you guys.
For Canelo to willingly step back and leave that weekend empty shows exactly where his head is right now. This is not a normal pause, it is a withdrawal. By giving up his usual time, he is quietly accepting that the old routine no longer works. The system that delivered massive fights year after year for nearly a decade has now come to a complete stop.
News, but Canelo Alvarez wants Terence Crawford rematch, says negotiations are underway for 2026. Now, first off, I expect nothing less from Canelo. He wants to get that fight back because, well, number one, it's a somewhat advantageous matchup at 168 for him, and there's not many other matchups at 168 for Canelo right now that offer him any sort of advantages. Imagine you try to put him in there with the Hamza Shiraz or someone with a bigger frame, longer, taller. I mean, even David Benavidez, before he went and knocked out and absolutely smoked Anthony Yard, was saying, you know, I'm still entertaining the potential of a Canelo fight. There's not many other people at 168. I mean, maybe if you did Chris Eubank Jr., but after he loses to Conor Ben, what does that fight really even mean? Canelo says, I want my run back. I want my get back, but I gotta be honest, I don't know how this goes well for Canelo in a rematch. Honestly, you look at the first fight, and the things that plagued Canelo were essentially the things that plague him against most boxers. His flat feet, his lack of movement, his lack of volume. He couldn't get to Terence. He was overextending. He was getting caught with counter shots as he overextended. The big shown around, memed, and replayed moment of the fight is Canelo trying to throw a hook in a right hand and Terence Crawford slipping on the outside and banging the left hand counter behind it. Canelo was beaten to the punch from distance. He was beaten in exchanges, and even at points in the fight, he was beaten inside by Terence Crawford. This was I wouldn't say dominant, but I would say more one-sided than I thought.
The choice has rocked the boxing world because it reveals a weakness we have never seen from him before. This Canelo controlled everything. He set the dates, chose the rivals, and told networks and arenas when to prepare. But after losing his undisputed super middleweight title, that power is gone. Eddie Reynoso, his longtime trainer and manager, confirmed it and said the team will not fight in May. This break ends a long stretch of dominance and shows the camp knows another dull showing would be costly. They are wiping the slate clean, giving up quick money to chase Real redemption later.
I would love to see the rematch. I think in the rematch, if he comes back with the hunger that he needs, he could beat Crawford. Crawford, you know, is very talented, but I think Canelo could, Canelo's strong, man. Canelo's strong. Canelo could take a good fight, so I think he could just go and don't respect his punch and throw punches even though you're gonna get hit, but don't give up. Keep going until you hit him.
A Away from the spotlight, the situation is far more serious than just a hurt pride. The delay is mainly because of health concerns after the tough loss to Terence Crawford in September 2025. Canelo had elbow surgery, which is very hard for a power fighter to recover from. This was not a small fix, it was a major repair that needs long recovery time. At 35 years old, his body does not heal like it did in his 20s when he was dominating divisions. Canelo himself admitted that sometimes you try but your body no longer responds, and that reality brings frustration. He said he can still think and plan, but his body will not allow him to perform, and at some point you must accept that this situation leaves a huge gap in his career. If he returns in September 2026, it will mean a full year without a fight, which is his longest break outside the shutdowns of 2020. For a fighter who depends on timing and activity, this is a serious risk. Ring rust is real, and sitting out while his rival stays sharp could lead to disaster, but Canelo seems to have no other option. After more than 60 professional fights, the damage has caught up to him, and now he must choose between rushing back and risking the end of his career, or taking a long break that could cost him his place at the top.
He did get elbow surgery on his lead elbow. This was on October 25th. Apparently also had a new child, so congrats to Canelo on the new baby. But he also had the elbow surgery. He is now, I guess, rehabbing that. 4 to 6 weeks for him to resume training, so it's not getting in the way of something in 2026. But what I realistically think Canelo could and should and would do differently for this fight is he would have to fight Terence Crawford like he fought Sergey Kovalev at 175. That's genuinely what he would have to do. He'd have to be lighter on his feet, he'd have to throw more combinations, and he'd have to be quicker with his hands, as he was in that fight. And I'm not saying that he changes everything about himself. Canelo had success in moments with Bud Crawford, but that's what he would have to do, and some, right? He would have to be able to add layers to his game and not be so flat-footed. And if he's going to combination punch, he's got to do so in the fire with Terence Crawford, which going into the first fight, I didn't think Terence Crawford was going to have as much success with his combination punching because he'd have to be in front of the powerful hands of Canelo. But again, he was able to do so off the back foot and front because Canelo threw one at a time. He threw the jab or the right hand, or he threw the hook right hand. And again, Terence Crawford remained mostly southpaw, which does give Canelo problems because now he has to lead with his backhand versus punctuate with it, and his jab gets neutralized, and it's just a mess of a fight for Canelo. It really is. I don't hate that he wants to get that back, and the matchup itself is, again, one of the only ones that Canelo can still have. Make a shit ton of money and potentially not completely kill his star power should he lose. He still has, I think, a couple more fights with the Ring Magazine and Riyadh season that he needs to fulfill his contract. So if he's able to get the rematch with Terence.
Even with the surgery and long break, the team is locked in on one clear goal. There is no talk of a warm-up fight and no easy matchup to shake off ring rust. Eddie Reynoso has been very direct. Plan A is Terence Bud Crawford, and nothing else matters. This gives a deep look into Canelo mindset. Most advisors would suggest a simple win after surgery and a loss to rebuild confidence. Canelo is choosing the opposite path. He wants to go straight back into danger with the man who embarrassed him. This is not only about winning a title again, it is about removing a mark from his legacy. The loss in September 2025 was not close and not unlucky. It was a clear decision where Crawford moved up 2 weight classes and still looked better in every way. A defeat like that stays with a fighter like Canelo. He is skipping every other option, ignoring all challengers at 168 and betting everything on one rematch. This is a win or lose move. If he returns in September 2026 and loses again, the Canelo era will truly be finished.
Heavyweight, because Bivol's done him. Benavidez has gone up to there now, and I don't think that's a fight he's going to fancy. I feel like a lot of people are saying he swerved that Benavidez fight, so I don't think he's going to want to go up to light heavyweight and fight him. So it's like the only sensible option, or the only real option, is the rematch. And that's the same for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford's now 168 pounds. Who does he fight? Who does he go for next? It's difficult. There's no other real big names. I mean, there's a kid in England called Hamza Shiraz who's tapping on the door for something big. And I had a chat with him yesterday, and he's talking about the Canelo fight, and he'd take that. But realistically, is Canelo Alvarez or Terence Crawford going to want to jump in with Hamza Shiraz? I mean, Shiraz has got a great future ahead of him. I think he's going to do really well. But he's not in that mix, is it? If he gets an opportunity, go for it. I don't think Crawford would be interested. Canelo, it does nothing for him. So these two, really, the only fight for him is the rematch. For me, that's the only real, feasible option that I could see where I'd say, yeah, you know what? This is a fight where the fans may or may not get hold of it. But for me, I don't even want to see it. Terence Crawford dominated that fight so much. And I know it was a little bit nip-tuck at times, but when you look at the art of pugilism and the skill set that came from Terence Crawford and the way he dismantled, dissected, and beat him at his own game towards the end, took Canelo on and beat him at his own game. Terence Crawford kind of it was an easy night's work for him, dare I say. An easy night's work against Canelo Alvarez. And I don't want to rain on this parade, but Canelo is definitely past his best.
The challenge of being the challenger is that you no longer control the fight. Terence Crawford is making sure Canelo feels that shift when news broke that Canelo was aiming for a rematch. Crawford's response was icy. In a recent fight hype clip, Bud just laughed, saying, "That's news to me." It was a sharp reminder that Canelo can aim all he wants, but Crawford holds the power. Now the roles have completely reversed. For years fighters chased Canelo for big paydays. Now Canelo is the one chasing. Yeah. Canelo even said he might skip May for a September rematch. Your thoughts? Crawford replied, "That's no news for me. Would you take it?" He sits on top as undisputed king with options that don't include waiting for recovering Canelo. He could move up in weight or unify other belts. He doesn't need Canelo to prove anything. This new indifference is unfamiliar to Alvarez. He is used to being the center of the boxing world. Now he is just another fighter waiting for the champion to sign, and Crawford shows no rush to help. If that bruises the ego, the financial demands could stop the fight before it happens. Rumors from Crawford's camp, especially coach Bernie Davis, say the rematch price has soared possibly up to a $100 million purse. It sounds huge, but from Crawford's view it makes sense. He already beat the money machine. If anyone wants him to risk his undefeated record against a heavier and desperate Canelo, they must pay top dollar.
To now, I don't want to say pad his stats, but to pad his stats. If he competes at middleweight, right, and becomes undisputed at middleweight, that'll make him a 4-division undisputed champion and a 6-division champion overall, right? He has more to gain than Canelo Alvarez, right? And he has more to lose, right? So the fight did, Saul Canelo Alvarez, it did 45,812,000 live gate, right? And nearly 65,000 people in attendance. So with that said, as I'm saying, right, it was very successful. Now, because of the way the fight, what really wasn't that competitive, I don't know. The demand is not there for the fight. It's just not, right? People are not interested. They saw what they saw. You can't unsee it. And then people immediately started to tell you that Canelo Alvarez ain't the same guy. Right? So with that said, you saw what you saw. You can't unsee it. And it only gets worse for Canelo. Because again, it's a stylistic matchup issue. Period.
This puts promoters and networks in a huge dilemma. Can a rematch bring in enough money to cover a $100 million payout for just one fighter? The first fight was massive, but the rematch has less intrigue since Crawford already showed dominance. Negotiations are expected to be long and difficult. Canelo is used to getting the biggest cut, but he may need to accept less if he wants this chance at redemption badly. The money is the main obstacle, and if Crawford's team holds firm on that 9-figure demand, Canelo's plan A could collapse entirely.
Why? He's a competitor. And there's a few things going on here. Number one, there was a rematch clause. And I do know right after the fight, Canelo Alvarez was like, there was nothing I could do with him. But I think what happens is you start to sit back. Let me look at the fights. Let me think about this. The fight was closer than I thought. That's what Canelo's thinking, right? Because technically it was. All right, when you think about the copy boxes, put a pin in that. We all know Terence Crawford whooped that man's ass 11 rounds to 1 in reality, all right? But if you count, punches, landed or copy by, statistically, technically, it was a closer fight, okay? Now, Saul Canelo Alvarez also, last time you saw him, he's, nursing and recovering from an elbow surgery, which he had an elbow injury going into the fight. So, you start thinking about stuff like that. I'm talking about if you Canelo, why would you say, let's go ahead with the rematch. I think I got a shot. All right. Being a competitor for one. All right. And number two, the fight was closer technically than you thought because you were in there. And in there, you felt like you were getting your ass whipped. And number three, you went in there nursing an elbow injury. So it's like, I think I may have a chance if I'm 100% healthy. All right. He feels the same way about Bivol because he had a wrist injury going into the Bivol fight. So it's just, you think about all those things. I'm like, let me give myself a shot. All right. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do is get my 20 grand back.
If the fight does happen, the biggest question is whether Canelo can actually win. Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao recently shared a harsh truth that Canelo's team needs to hear. Pacquiao said Canelo looked slow and heavy in their first fight. His advice was clear, but extreme Canelo must shed a lot of muscle to get back the speed and agility that made him great in that first fight. The extra weight did not add power, it only made him an easy target for Crawford's precision punches, making this change at 35 is risky. Losing muscle now can leave a fighter tired and weak, but the first fight showed that moving forward and waiting for one big punch does not work against a technician like Crawford. Canelo must reinvent his style. He needs to be faster, more agile, and more responsive, skills that usually decline with age. The experts are basically saying that to win in September 2026, Canelo has to turn back the clock 5 years, a challenge that almost no athlete in history has ever achieved. Interview 9.
The thing that bothered me, there's only one thing that really did bother me, and that's why I don't want a rematch. I'll be honest. I've been in this business 50 years, too long to fool myself. Those judges should be really, they got to look in the mirror to have it that close. There's no way it was that close. Thank God he dominated, because otherwise we might be here talking a whole different thing and really going nuts, and I would definitely break this thing.
Yes, you would. I believe you.
And maybe that. And I'd owe money. And I don't care, I would pay it. But at the end of the day, that's why I don't want to see it again. He dominated, and the judges had it that close.
Yeah.
Give the judges another shot at it. Forget about the fighters. I don't want to give the judges another shot at it. How's that? I know a lot of people love me for that, but what are you gonna do? I'm gonna always say what I believe.
Yeah.
Look, so the issue with Canelo tonight was his feet were too slow. All right. He was looking for looping shots. He didn't throw enough punches at all. Couldn't get his jab established at all. And when you can't get your jab established, it's hard to land your power shots. He was looking to time Crawford. Crawford had the longer reach. He was keeping him at bay, and over the course of Canelo's career, especially the back end, he's got accustomed to fighting a certain style. Keeping his hands up high, walking forward, and Crawford made him pay for that. Years ago, when Canelo first came on the scene, he had more upper body movement. He moved his legs a lot better. He can counterpunch a lot effectively, off the back foot, off the front foot. He did a little bit more. He just got really complacent with one style, and it came back to hunt him. 100%. He had no plan B. He had no other options. Crawford took everything away from him, and there were even moments where he would bag up and try to regroup himself, and Crawford knew exactly what he was doing. Oh, I see what you're doing. You're going to take a walk? That's fine. Eat this jab. Not allowing Canelo just to relax. So, look, spectacular performance by Crawford. Canelo, I think this is it for him.
The public is not on Canelo's side right now. A quick look at Reddit and Twitter shows fans are mostly skeptical about this plan. On forums like Reboxing, the feeling is that the gap between him and Crawford is too big to close in a year. People point out that Crawford didn't just win, he exposed Canelo's struggles against a mobile switch-hitting genius. Many think a September 2026 fight is too far away. By then both fighters will be older, but Canelo will have far more mileage. Fans also wonder if this is just a cash grab, one last huge payday before retirement. If he really believed he could win, why wait a whole year? Or is he trying to build the hype to ensure the check is big? The doubts are understandable. Legends have held on too long chasing fights they cannot win. Fans want a Rocky-style comeback, but the first fight's reality is hard to ignore. September 2026 could define Canelo Alvarez's entire career. He is risking everything: his tradition, health, and legacy, all on one fight against his toughest opponent. By skipping May, he has pushed all his chips to the center. If he wins, avenges the loss, and reclaims the throne, he cements himself as the greatest of his generation. But if the break is too long, the surgery too heavy, or Crawford too skilled, this will not be a comeback, it will be a retirement party. The countdown has begun, and for the first time the outcome is completely out of Canelo's hands. That's all for today's video. If you liked it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss our next videos.